I wore them, I tested them, I loved them. Simple as that. Oh, that makes sense. That's why we're called. What up, y'all? My name is Alan. Today we are taking a look at the Way of Way 10 basketball shoes. Let me preface by saying that I eventually fell in love with these shoes, but it wasn't love at first sight when I first tested these out. The more and more I played with these shoes, the more I became convinced that these are definitely going to be a top contender for Performance Basketball Shoe of the Year. I have reviewed some really good performance basketball shoes, but I think the WOW 10s are on another level. Unfortunately, the price for these shoes are also on another level. These shoes are $225 per pair. Let's forget about price for a minute, let's clear our minds, and let's focus on how these shoes performed. I love the traction on the WOW 10s. To really maximize its potential in terms of traction, you have to save this for indoors. Durability outside is where it suffers. If you somehow have problems with the traction for these shoes, I will argue that that is more of a floor problem. I'd really tried to play in as many different conditions as I can with this shoe, and it performed well on all those conditions. Even when the outsole got super dusty, the rubber compound still reacted surprisingly well. The outsole material for these shoes are solid, and the pattern itself is sort of this radial ripple pattern. It's not herringbone, but I think circular base patterns just like this work just as well. The grooves are divided into plenty of thin but evenly spaced out lines, and they are raised, but since the gaps in between are so tiny, tiny rocks are able to collect in them very easily. I really appreciate how the traction pattern extends on the medial side of the shoe. That's important because when you're playing basketball, your feet are not always going to be in an upright angle like this. When you're doing crossovers and dribbling, or even just pivoting and doing post moves, your feet are inevitably going to be in this angle at some point when you're playing. I do wish they went all in into extending that traction pattern. They had to accommodate that text right here as a design element. That's a very minor issue. I'm just happy that they even added that extension of the traction pattern as a feature. It did kind of hurt to bring these outside emotionally, not physically, because these shoes are so expensive relative to other shoes. But alas, I had to wear test it for you guys. I had to do it for science.
Because I only believe in science.
Traction performance outside was still good. The only issue is that it won't be able to sustain that top-notch traction performance outside because the quality of the outsole is very soft and pliable. After playing a total of 4 hours in 2 separate courts, you can already see that a part of that outsole has already separated. If you really want to try this outside, just be cautious that the traction won't last you for long. Overall, they nailed the traction for the shoes. This is definitely the bounciest basketball shoe I've reviewed this year. When a cushion is bouncy, it can give off an impression of instability because you're rocking in that cushion setup a little more than you would in a stiffer cushion setup. It felt like I was being propelled and I felt faster, especially when I was going forward. It was for lateral movements, especially on defense, where I really had to get used to the bounciness of the shoe. I've personally had experiences with bouncy cushion setups in some Saucony and Nike running shoes, but in running, it's more of a constant linear forward movement. You're not really changing that much directions. In basketball, it's a little different because you're constantly changing your body angles and movements.
Boom, click and go back this way. Boom, here, click and go that way.
I think that's why for me personally, it was easier to get used to a bouncy cushion for running than it was for this basketball shoe. The WOW 10s feature a full-length Boom midsole, and Boom technology uses what they're calling Pebax foam, which is supposed to be more resilient and lighter than traditional TPU foam. Personally, it feels like the eTPU stuff in Adidas Boost, but take it up a notch bouncier. To spice up that springy feel even more, they added a torsional plate under the shoe to complement that Boom midsole. Some users have noticed some cracking in their shank plates. I personally didn't have that problem, but that is just something to take note of for you guys. That shank plate is also pre-curved around the arch area of the shoe, and Li-Ning claims that that helps with more forward motion. By the second or third time I was playing in these shoes, I started to appreciate its cushion more for its comfort level. I eventually realized that despite the bouncy cushion in the shoe, this shoe overall is actually fairly stable. The cushion is caged, but the TPU caging that they use for this shoe is actually really soft. This softer TPU caging allows that cushion to shine and, harness it just slightly. I had the wrong first impression that the shoe sits high off the ground, but the cushion stack height of the shoe becomes gradually lower to the ground as you move to the forefoot area. And I think that cushion stack height right there is just the right amount. You combine that with the boom midsole and a fairly wide forefoot base, and I think you get a great mix of court feel and cushion. The removable insoles are TPU insoles, and they're thicker than your usual Ortholite insoles. There is another Li-Ning shoe that contains a removable boom midsole. This right here is the Wade 808 V2 Ultra version. Now, I've only played with this shoe a couple of times, but to quickly compare the cushion setups between the two, the boom midsole in this shoe is a bit thicker and stiffer in the forefoot area, and I think that's why I like it here better, because it's softer and lower to the ground on the WOW 10. Moving on to support, we've already talked about that shank plate earlier. It is full length and it has you covered for your torsional support needs. That shoe can't be bent or twisted very easily. The WOW 10s are a mid top. I am someone who loves low top basketball shoes. My favorite shoes are low top shoes, but I was able to adapt to these shoes because I think the material around the ankle collar is pretty soft and minimal, so I think you'll be able to adapt to this coming from a low top. Another support feature of the shoe are these soft TPU stabilizers that you'll see on the lateral side of the shoe. Just like the TPU caging material, they are very soft. That worked really well for me because when I did sudden hard stops, it wouldn't dig into my feet. At the end of the TPU stabilizer is a circular carbon fiber piece. It's meant to provide heel and ankle support, but part of me thinks it's just there for design purposes. I'd like to think that it actually does its job though. What did dig into my feet sometimes are the eye stays that you would see on either side of the shoe. My minor complaint is that when I would play with these shoes without my ankle braces sometimes, and when I flexed that forefoot area, I would sometimes feel the end of the eye stay poking my feet. The laces kind of remind me of the GT Cut 1 laces. Because they are soft and round, they may have a higher tendency to loosen up. I didn't have that problem. I double laced at the very end. Most people do that anyways, and so I think you won't have a problem. That tongue of the shoe is just right. It's padded just the right amount. It's not super long, and it matches the height of the ankle collar of the shoe. It also wraps around my foot very well. Support and lockdown for the WOW 10s is very good as well. The upper of the WOW 10s is made up of mesh knit material that's meant to be light, durable, and breathable. They felt very comfortable for my feet. I really liked how it felt. But the thing that actually impressed me the most about the upper is the slight elasticity that it has to it. The upper has a quality of being stretchy, but it only stretches when it is needed. That mesh knit allowed for some good breathability, and I was able to appreciate that when I tested these shoes without my ankle braces. I think the WOW 10 does a great job of implementing that thin upper, but still not forgetting the other attributes of the shoe. It's still supportive even though it is thin and light. Sometimes you get an upper that's really supportive, but it's too thick or restricting. And then sometimes you have a shoe that's super breathable and light, but that upper skimps out on support. The lightweight of the shoe is another huge reason why I love playing these shoes. I felt fast and I felt like I could do anything I wanted to. These are the lightest shoes that I've tested so far this year. Most of the shoes that I've tested this year hovers around the 380, 390 gram range. If you compare these to the Wade 808 regular version and the Ultra version, these are actually lighter than those shoes. There used to be a note on the Li-Ning website listing for this shoe where they suggested that people who are planning to buy the shoe should go up at least half a size. They did that because the shoe does fit snug in the midfoot area, but I wouldn't say it's as tight as you would find in a KD shoe, say something like a KD 15. Again, that upper material is slightly elastic, so it's going to be a bit more forgiving for your feet. If you like a one-to-one snug fit for your feet, a lot of people in our WearTesters Discord channel also went true to size and it worked out for them. If you're someone like me who also wears braces, or you just have really wide feet, going up at least half a size is going to be needed for you. These shoes are actually a full size larger than my true size, but only a half size larger than what I normally prefer, but it still works out perfectly. I'm someone who really likes a bit more room in the toe box area. This shoe actually does seem to have a larger toe box area compared to other shoes. It flares out, as you can see over here. And so if you're someone who likes a little more breathing room for your toes, the toe box in these shoes should accommodate you. That is about it for my performance review of the WOW 10s. And if you couldn't tell by now, I really think that these shoes are awesome. I think the ones who are really gonna enjoy the shoe are the ones who like a bouncy cushion setup, really good traction, and a lightweight shoe. They are very expensive compared to other basketball shoes. For the price of one pair, you can get 2 or maybe even 3 really good performance basketball shoes. And you know, that's a very valid option. Again, my name is Alan. Thank you so much for watching. Have fun playing hoops out there. Stay safe. Until next time, peace.